Hey everybody, this is Caesar with Small Engine Velocity coming at you with another video in regards to the CBR650. Of course, it's a Honda. You may have noticed or may know from the channel that I got this bike recently from trading in my SV650 because I wanted a 4-cylinder bike and a sport bike. So here we are. Now, when you go through your list of things that you want to do on your motorcycle, you think to yourself, okay, so, I just got a bike. I want to modify it. And sometimes you come up with some cool stuff, sometimes you come up with some weird stuff, but you know, this is one of the things that I thought I would never put in because I was like, well, you know, this isn't something that I would ever want to use on my bike. I thought it would make me lazy when it comes to shifting and just make the ride experience a little more bland and a little more automatic. You may have noticed you may have noticed I put out a video about manual transmissions disappearing. I'll put that up here. Well, I did it. I got a quick shifter, and we're gonna go into more of that right after the intro. Okay, so let's define a couple of things. First, what is a quick shifter? A quick shifter is something that you put on your bike. It's electronic, generally it's electronic. And when you shift, especially in the up direction, when you're pulling up, you don't need to pull the clutch. In this particular case, you can only shift up. Now there are ones that they make where you can shift down, but I mean, that's making it a semi-automatic bike and is it really worth it? So, I was looking around and I saw it, someone said OEM and I was like, wow, Honda makes an OEM quick shifter for this bike. So I was intrigued. I wanted to see what was all of this about with a quick shifter because I did look at it for the Power Commander and it looked very complicated to go ahead and put inside. So I looked around, I went to Partzilla and it was like $500–600 and I said, heck no. I was like, well, maybe I can find it cheaper somewhere else. Well, I did. Just like I got the exhaust for this bike, I bought this on eBay and I got it for about $220 or something like that. At first I thought it was gonna be a China imitation, but it is actually an OEM part, amazingly enough. I like it. Why buy Chinese parts when you can get OEM parts better and you know it's gonna work? So another thing we need to define, OEM. OEM means it was made by Honda and it will work. I was told once a long time ago, OEM is better if they make the part that you're looking for. Otherwise, do like I did with the exhaust. Videos right here and build your own. So, when I got this product, it came in the mail. I thought it was gonna be in a bigger box, but it was actually in this tiny little brown box with a Honda label on it, with a little barcode, a little brown box. And it looked to have, I guess, what I needed. So, you open the box. The first thing that you see is the shifting connector rod. It's that long piece that goes between the lever and where the actual gear shift happens in the motor. It's silver, which I'm going to make a point about that later on, so remember I said it's silver. Then you have the shifter connecting rod, which is the part that goes on the spline across the top. The part that when you pull the lever, it actuates or turns the shifting mechanism in the motor, in the transmission. It is also silver, keep that in mind. It comes conveniently enough with some zip ties so that you can zip things together, as well as a little round cable guide, which it tells you in the instructions how far to put it up the cable, so where the intention is to put it on the side of the bike when you're running the cable. And then of course, the main piece, the shifter part, with the electronics inside of it. So when you pull the lever, there's a switch inside of there that happens that sends a signal down that wire to the motor, which it is one wire. Think about that. It's just one wire with a clip on the end. It'll come in play later on when we're installing this into the bike. So of course, the first thing I had to do was take off the stock shifter. You're obviously gonna need, I think it was an 8mm to take the tension nut off of it so you could take the original lever off of the spline. You can use an impact if you want to do this, but you know, it's up to you. You're taking bolts off, so you can use hand tools or power tools if you want, because it's only the removal part of it. Once you get that part disconnected, follow the rod down to the bottom, and that is where the shift lever is. You're gonna need to go ahead and take that bolt off on the bottom where you can remove the lever. Now you'll notice when you take the lever off, it fits inside of this metal piece that it pivots on. My bike is a 2020, and I noticed in there that the grease was gone. So remember, it even says it in the instructions to go ahead and put grease inside of there so that you can, I don't know, so it just lasts longer, or it shifts correctly, I guess. Now keep in mind that shift lever that you push on, you're gonna need to reuse that again. It didn't come with one in the kit, which makes perfect sense. Now notice mine is powder coated black. So in the instructions, it is one small sheet of paper. I don't think I got a video of it, but it is one sheet of paper, and on that sheet of paper has a few specs, what is it made for and stuff like that, but like no instructions on it. You'll see a couple of links on there, but then you'll also see a QR code. You'll notice throughout the process here, you'll probably see my cell phone laying around. There is a QR code that you can scan that takes you to a site where you click on your bike, and then you can get the PDF on how to install this on your bike. I guess that's a good way to save money on paper and stuff like that. So another thing to note while you're doing all of this, be sure to have a ruler of some sort, preferably not a yardstick like I had, and something that goes down to 1/8 inch, because it is going to tell you something like, 15.7 inches. You'll also need to convert the 0.7 into 1/8 inch if you have to, or you can just kind of guesstimate across on the top. I think when they tell you the length that it needs to, that's the optimal for the average person. You may need to make it a little bit longer to put your shifter down a little bit more. Maybe you're a taller or a shorter person. You might need to make those changes. Now, I did mention that I had to use grease to put on the bottom because it was dry. That's just a good measure to keep it from eventually maybe squeaking or something like that. Then once you're done and you get all these little pieces together, all you have to do is put it back in the reverse order. Really, there's a bolt on the bottom, and then there you put the spline across the top with the fulcrum or the lever, and then you put that tension nut on there. You may have to play with it a little bit to kind of get it to sit right. It even tells you a little bit of an angle in the instructions on how that lever should sit and which direction should sit and all sorts of stuff. So pay attention to the instructions. Remember, this isn't a how-to video. This is just kind of an overview and a kind of a first thoughts on this particular product. Of course, after you get it installed, to save yourself some trouble, go ahead and get that ruler again and check your measurements. Make sure that it's pretty close to what they asked you to put it at. After you've put it together and you've moved it around, since one part is reverse threaded, you can twist it to increase or decrease the width of that shifter piece on there. I noticed personally that after I put this on, even without using it as a quick shifter, I shift better. So what does that tell me? That tells me that my shifter needed to be adjusted for how I sit on this bike. I'm 5'6", so it needed to be probably shortened a little bit. Last part of this entire process is taking the tank off. I know it sounds daunting and unexciting and painful, and like it's gonna take you forever. Really, all you have to do is take those two pieces of side plastic off. They all use Allen wrench bits. So if you have Allen wrench bits, you're covered. And they come off pretty easy. There's a little bit of Velcro, and you can pull those off. On the top of the tank, there is a plastic dressing piece that goes over the key. You'll have to take that and the key piece off of it so that you can move the tank up later on. And then there are 2 bolts that you have to take off at the front, pull those off, and then 2 bolts that you have to loosen at the back of the tank by the seat, which, by the way, you will have to take the seat off to access those, and then you can lean the tank up. Now, a lot of the videos that I watched said that you have to take the tank off. Well, I am telling you right now that you don't have to take the tank off. I propped it up with a screwdriver so that I can get access to the connector that I needed. Now, here's what's amazing about this quick shifter. Remember that I said it's OEM. So if it's OEM, that means it's built for the bike. If it's built for the bike, that means there's a connector for it already. All you have to do is look under the tank, and there's a blue connector that is made for the quick shifter. There's a cap on it, you pull the cap off, you plug the quick shifter in, and then you do all your zip ties and stuff. Of course, fortunately, the kit comes with zip ties, so then you have to worry about that anymore. Then you're done. Well, you still have to put everything back together, and then you're done. Now, all in all, the aesthetic look of this quick shifter, to me, I don't like it. But that's because I took the time to powder coat my rear set and my rear passenger pegs and everything, all powder coated black. So now that whole area is black. If you want to see that video where I blacked out the pegs, it's right here. But I like it that way. It kind of takes the focus away from the pegs and puts it onto the rest of the bike, even the motor, because the motor is like that goldish bronze color. So maybe one day I'll go back and powder coat some certain parts, or maybe even spray powder coat parts and then spray paint the others. But right now, to me, it looks good enough, and it kind of draws attention to it so that when people look at your bike, they're like, what's that? And you can explain that it's a quick shifter. So that didn't seem too hard. It was pretty easy. If I was going to give it on a scale of 1 to 10, as long as you have Allen wrenches, other wrenches, and a cell phone or a laptop or something to get that QR code to get the instructions, this is somewhere around a 4. Taking the tank off is where the difficulty comes in, because you have to be very careful with those plastics and everything. You don't want to strip those Allen wrench screws if you're trying to use a torque wrench on it or anything. That's probably where I would use the hand tools. So I will make a follow-up video on this, on me riding with the quick shifter with some thoughts, so that I could show you how it feels and if it's any good. Did you see this?
Oh yeah, magical quick shifter.
It's cool. I could live without it, but it's nice having it. Watch this.
Oh shit!
But I'll tell you now, I've already ridden it. It's actually on the bike right now. Actually, that's the brake side. No, that's the shifter side. Yeah, right there. And it is absolutely amazing. You hold the throttle down, and then you just go, you just leave it down like 1, you go blip, 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 and get all the way to 6th. Don't have to let go of the throttle. You don't have to pull the clutch. You don't have to use the quick shifter all the time either. When you're doing regular riding, use the quick shifter. But when you're trying to fly on the freeway and take off, or on a country road, or a school zone, or something like that, it is absolutely awesome. It's the greatest mod I ever put on my bike that I really didn't need. Like, you don't really need it. Like, if you're a racer, then maybe you don't, but you don't really need it. So, even though you don't need it, I recommend it if you can afford it, and it makes life a little bit more interesting when you're trying to blast across the freeway. Stay tuned for the second video in this series, which there'll only be 2, with the quick shifter action, and some final thoughts. Anyways, thanks for watching this. Hope you liked. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Yeah.